I'm now joined by former Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko, who was in office from 2014 to 2019, and he joins us from Kiev. Mr. Poroshenko, welcome to DW. It is looking rather dire in Donbass. Can we assume that Russia will take control of this region in a matter of days?
First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. And we hear many times the signal from Russia that they captured all Ukraine within 3 days, which is not happening neither with the 33 or 3 months. And now Putin promised to occupy Donbass at least before 9 of May, before Day of Russia, 12 of June. This is not happening. Situation is extremely difficult. And the concentration of troops there is enormous. But our heroic soldiers is keeping Severodonetsk. We keeping the Azov, not Azov, but Azot chemical plant. And we never surrender. And I just want to remind you, year 2014, when I was elected as a president, Crimea was occupied and Donbass was occupied. And it was Ukraine and me as the Supreme Commander-in-Chief deliberate Mariupol, deliberate Severodonetsk, Lysychansk, and all 2/3 of the occupied Donbass. I'm absolutely confident that it's exactly happened this time.
Well, Ukraine, of course, has been asking NATO countries for more weapons in its fight against Russia. Why do you think those weapons deliveries are falling short?
First of all, you should understand that the delivering of the weapons is the shortest way to the peace. Because now we have 10 times Russia has more artillery weapons, more howitzer than Ukrainian soldiers. And even in this balance, Ukraine make a counterattack and Ukraine surprised the world by stopping the so-called second biggest army in the world, which is not true. And that's why for the peace, we need 3 things: weapons, weapons, and weapons. And first weapons is the tanks, howitzer, anti-aircraft missiles, jet fighter. Second weapons is embargo and sanction. And third weapons is to deputinize Russia. And today is extremely important day because in Brussels we have a contact group meeting, third meeting, which is named after the very famous now German Rammstein. And we are definitely awaiting not only from our American partners, but from German partners, from other NATO member states, significant increase the effective weapons for the game changer. Because can you imagine that the future of Europe, or future of the world, is depending from 1,000 anti-personnel carrier, 500 tanks, 100 jet fighter, or 300 multi-rocket launch system. And this is exactly what we are waiting to be equipped our soldiers, because we don't need NATO soldiers on Ukrainian soil. Please help us to save Europe. Help us to do your job. And this is my appeal to the German government. Be shoulder to shoulder with us. And this is the vital for the future of Europe.
Well, Mr. Poroshenko, there are some, though, who say that more weapons will only lead to a prolonged war that could conceivably last years. Do you think that's worth it? Would Ukraine perhaps be willing to agree to some sort of deal with Russia to give up some territory in exchange for a ceasefire? Or do you think the country is prepared to fight for years?
We prepared to win the war. And I'm absolutely confident that the democracy must be protected. And this is just a paradox. When we have more weapons to Ukraine, this is the way to peace. More weapons to Russia, this is the way to the complete disaster in Europe. Because who knows who would be next? Because Putin thinks that even the Dresden, where he served many years, this is also his land. tomorrow he knocking the door in the Poland or Baltic states, who knows, maybe in any nation in the Europe. And that's why we need to deputinize Russia. That's why we have a historic mission of Ukrainian armed forces. And I'm proud that this is me as a Supreme Commander-in-Chief since year 2014 create the armed forces who surprise the world, who demonstrate this efficiency, who demonstrate this as responsibility. And there is no one single artillery shelling or missiles reach or go to the Russian territory. We just defending our soil. We're defending our family. We're defending our elderly people, and we're defending our future. And just want to remind you that Putin understands the language of strength. If you're weak, you cannot find out any compromise. And those nations who propose to give some territory to Putin should understand that this is only feeding the tiger. And this is just creating the precedent who motivated Putin to go further. And with this situation, my request, my appeal, no appeasement to Putin. And with that situation, we definitely think that we need more weapons to do your job. We need more weapons to save Europe.
And yet, Mr. Poroshenko, while you were president, you actually did sign a peace agreement with Vladimir Putin, the Minsk II agreement in 2015. Was that a mistake? And I'd like you to explain what exactly you mean by deputinization.
Let's divide by two the answer on this question. Question number one, we have in Minsk agreement the withdrawal of Russian troops from Ukrainian soil, disarmed of illegal armed formation, withdrawal of heavy artillery and weapons, and together, in general, this is the first letters of the Minsk agreement to renew, to restore Ukrainian sovereignty and territorial integrity in the international recognized border now. And this is just a demonstration that Putin not keeping the words. And the lessons we should learn from this Minsk agreement, please don't trust Putin. And point number two, don't be afraid of Putin. And what is the results of the Minsk agreement? We win 8 years to create the army. We win 8 years to restore economy. We win 8 years to continue the reforms and to move to the European Union.
Mr. Poroshenko, sorry, I apologize for. Sorry to interrupt you. I would really like to hear you clarify this term deputinization that you used. What exactly do you mean by that?
Deputinization in Europe means that we shouldn't allow Putin or Russia to bribe politicians, to use gas or energy as a weapons against whole Europe, to finance by Russian the mass media, the NGO, and political parties. Putin shouldn't use the democratic institute to ruin Europe. Very simple, very clear. The same, we need to deputinize Ukraine, because he tried to do exactly the things in our country. And third, we need to deputinize Russia, because Russia should again be a democratic, free, independent country with the basis of the rule of law and everything. Because now Putin deliver or lead Russia to hell. And this, while Putin be in the as a leader of the Russia, the danger for the immediate attack will definitely continue to exist, because Putin is existential danger for the whole Europe, existential danger for the whole world, for all of you. And everybody should understand that.
All right, that was former Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko. Mr. Poroshenko, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you. Thank you for keeping Ukraine informed.